Sige, let's begin. Okay, we might not finish. I'm going to share. Can you see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Sige, so for this afternoon, we will talk about correlation. Simple linear regression will then follow if we still have time. Did you talk about correlation in your previous na stat niya class or wala pa? Na correlation na mo?
Ma'am.
Wala pa. Sige, so correlation is a statistical tool where we establish a linear association between two random variables. So our variables here would be the IV, which we denote as X, and then the DV, or the dependent variable, which we denote as Y. Now, correlation analysis determines the nature or direction and the strength of relationship between two variables. So, duha ang atong ginatanaw. Ang nature or direction, so when we say nature or direction, we mean to say, or we'd like to know if same ba ang direction. So when it's the same, meaning it's positive and direct. When we say same direction, meaning look at the arrows. If your x or your independent variable will decrease, mugamay po di muhang dependent. So when x decreases, y also decreases. And then the same way, kung imuhang x mag-increase, mo increase po di mong y. So muna itong ginaingon nga same ilahang direction or positive ilahang relationship because the same ang direction, either going down or going up. And then, pwede po nga ang direction is opposite, or we call that negative or indirect. Meaning, when one variable increases, the other variable decreases. Follow ang same direction or opposite direction? Yes? No? Okay ra? So, basta same, parehas sila ga-increase or parehas sila ga-decrease. Unya, positive siya. So, take note of that, positive basta same direction. Pag opposite, negative, meaning ang isa ga-increase, ang isa ga-decrease. So, that's the direction component of the correlation analysis. And then, we also talk about strength. So, there is the relationship strong, moderate, or weak. So, when you interpret later on, you need to say or state what's the direction and what's the strength of the relationship. So, duha na siya ka-go for me. Next, when we compute for the correlation, or that's denoted as R, the computation would always lie between positive 1 and negative 1. So, pag musobra sa positive 1 or negative 1, that means na something wrong sa imuhang computation. So, dapat between na gid siya sa positive 1 and negative 1. Now, if the correlation is perfect na positive 1, meaning perfect nga positive imuhang relationship. Meaning, same ang direction and very strong ang relationship. When we say negative, when your value reaches or nears negative 1, meaning perfect po siya nga opposite ang direction sa imuhang relationship. Pag 0, that means there's no relationship at all. Okay? Let's look at some examples of correlation. So, some questions on correlation would be, naabay association or relationship ang child's IQ with the parent's IQ? So is there a relationship between children's IQ and parents' IQ? Second, is there a relationship between the willingness of the people to be vaccinated and access to COVID-19 vaccine info? So pag mas taas ba or mas if you have more access to COVID-19 nga info, musaka ba po di mohang kumpiyansa nga magpa-vaccinate? Or kung taas imuhang access sa COVID-19 nga information, mas dili ba ka magpabakuna? So that's relationship. Next, number of police patrol. Is there a relationship between number of police patrol and number of crimes? If musaka ba ang kapatrol nga police, mumubo ba ang crime rate? Or kung daghan ba ang patrol nga police, musaka ba po ang crime? Next, grade on exam and time on exam. So, the more ba nga taas ang ihatag nga time for an exam, the more pud ba mo dako ang mga grade? Or is it opposite? And then we have grade and attendance to synchronous session. So, the more ba kag-attend og Google Meet, the more pud mo dako imong grade? Or is it the other way around, or is it opposite? Okay? So now I'd like to hear, what are your thoughts? Can you tell me if sa inyong huna-huna, positive or negative ba ang relationship between the variables? So let's start with children's IQ and parents' IQ. What do you think? Would this result to a positive or a negative relationship? Children's IQ and parents' IQ. What do you think? Sige, anybody?
Direction yata, ma'am.
Same direction. So, pag masaka, taas ang taas ang parents' IQ, taas pod ang children's IQ.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So, pwede sab, no? What about willingness to be vaccinated and access to COVID-19 vaccine info? Is it positive or negative? Would like to answer? Thoughts lang, no right or wrong answer.
Same direction gihapon, ma'am.
So, which means, go ahead, Louie. Anong same direction, man?
Kuan, ma'am, kanang kung willingness magud niya nga magkuan pod, mag-vaccine kay tungod kay mas daghan man gud siya nabalaan nga info regarding sa vaccine. So, na siya willing nga magpa-vaccine siya. Pero kung less ang information nga gihatag sa iya, dili siya pan kay gaduha-duha man ang usa ka tawo, mga kay dili man siya more knowledgeable bitaw sa kung unsa ang effect kung once nga mapa-vaccine siya. So if mas mahatag og sakto sa iyang information, mas willing siya magpa-vaccine. Okay, true. So that's plausible, no, nga the more ka na access sa vaccine information, the more ka mas na kumpiyansa magpa-vaccinate. So can you understand the point of a direct or positive relationship and a negative relationship? Is it clear? Yes, no, maybe. Claro ra? Let's have the last example, and maybe hindi na po mag-answer, no? Just your thoughts. What about grade and attendance to synchronous sessions? Do you think this is positive or negative? Be, kinsa tang tawagon? Renante? Mr. Silagan. What do you think? Positive or negative relationship, grade and attendance to synchronous sessions? Positive or negative? What do you think? The more baka mag-appeal og synchronous sessions, the more mudako imong grade, or the more ka mag-appeal og synchronous sessions, mas mugamay imong grade? What do you think?
Directional.
Ah?
Indirect.
Indirect. So, the more ka mag-appeal og synchronous sessions, the more ka mag-appeal og Google Meet, mas magamay imong grade. Tama?
Yun man sa pero di ba pareha na magkuhan mong upload o kuhan video kani recorded video.
Mo na ang synchronous kanang mag-video, mag-Google Meet. So what do you think? Direct or indirect? Or positive, negative?
Positive ma'am.
Positive. Meaning, ano sa'yo pasabot sa positive?
Yan siya ma'am, kanang same direction siya ma'am kay kung students kanang watch a session kanang synchronous session ma'am is pwede ma'am dako yang gado ma'am.
Kaya mas makasabot siya sa lesson.
Ma'am.
Okay, so true. So that's why it's a direct relationship. Okay, very good. So I hope that's clear, no? You now know how to interpret direct, indirect, or positive and negative relationships. Okay, let's proceed. So these are your types of correlation. So this one is the positive correlation or your direct relationship. So again, in positive correlation, variable X increases and variable Y increases. So same ilahang direction. And then the value should be ranging from 0.00 to positive 1. So pag 0.00 to positive 1, that means it's a positive correlation. So if you look at the graph, you would know this is a scatter plot. So kung tara ninyo ang scatter plot, makita ninyo nga ang mga dots is more leaning on the pa-right siya, no? Pa-right yan, pa-right ba? Pa-right yang higda. Okay. Now, the closer, do you see the red dots? The closer these dots form into a line, the more siya mahimog perfect nga relationship. So notice nga, medyo scattered man siya, dili pa kay siya makapurma og line ang mga dots. So meaning, the relationship is not really that strong. Pag mulinya ganin yung mga dots dili to form a line, that means it's a perfect positive relationship. Okay? So, again, remember, basta positive, it's leaning to the right. So, for example, the more you eat, the more weight you will gain. So, that's positive relationship. Next, this one is still a positive correlation, but this time, both variables are decreasing. So, same gihapon nilang direction, pero pababa or decrease. So, the values would still be from 0.00 to 1, but again, ang ihang arrow ana, both sila paubos. So for example, the less you study, the lower your test score will be. Okay? Now this one is an example of a negative correlation or an indirect relationship. So as variable X increases, variable Y decreases. Kung itong opposite direction. Notice nga ang iyahang graph, kaganina, inyong positive correlation leaning to the right. Pag negative correlation, it's leaning to the left. Okay? And again, observing the dots, the red dots, wala pa application of form of straight line. So it's not a strong relationship. Okay? So an example of a negative correlation, the older you are, so the more mosaka imong edad, the less flexible your body is. So opposite ilahang directions. Okay, follow so far? Yes. Okay ra?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
Question so far? Question so far? None? Wala pa? Sige. So kini siya, same gyapon negative correlation. Mawa ni mga negative tungod sa number, no? Basta negative yung sign, that's a negative correlation. Pag positive yung sign, positive. So for example, negative correlation yapon, the less time you study, the more errors you will make. Now, that was, I told you kaganina nga, there are two things that we can find out in a correlation analysis. First is the nature or direction. Second is the correlation strength. So this is now our scale for correlation strength. So when you compute your correlation and the number that comes out is between 0.00 to 0.20, then the relationship is weak or wala gyud relationship. So weak or none pag ang number nga mogawas is 0.00 to 0.20. Pag 0.20 to 0.40, meaning weak ang relationship. And then pag 0.40 to 0.60, it's moderate. 0.60 to 0.80, strong relationship. Pag 0.8 to 1, very strong. So same gihapon na siya pag negative ang values. Just the same, if you have, for example, negative 0.4, what is the strength? Negative 0.4, what do you think? What's the strength? If negative 0.4 inyong na-compute.
Negative relation.
Unsa siya? Weak, moderate, strong, very strong. Negative 0.4.
Weak, ma'am.
Weak, ma'am.
0.4. Pwede siya sa weak.
Yes,
How
ma'am.
about negative 0.7?
Very wicked, ma'am.
Ah?
Strong.
Negative 0.7.
Negative 0.7, ma'am.
Oh, 0.7.
Very weak, ma'am.
0.7 man. So, na siya
Weak.
diri sa 0.62,
Strong.
0.8.
Ah.
Strong siya. So, regardless sa iyahang sign, diri inyong tanawon sa range. Follow? Sige, let's try
Yes,
again.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
What about 0.38? 0.38.
Weak, ma'am.
Weak. Very good. What about negative 0.9?
Very
Very
strong.
Very strong.
strong.
Perfect. Good job. Okay. So, okay na? So, we're done with strength and direction. So, this one, exercise ng gapon ni, tagna lang ninyo, no? Just your thoughts if the relationship is positive or negative. So, let's just select. What about this one, number 4? Amount of exercise and weight gain. Is it positive or negative? What do you think? Jenny. Amount of exercise and weight gain. Do you think it's positive or negative relationship?
Positive.
Positive. Which means nga,
Kung the more
ito yung pasawat ng positive. Amount of exercise and weight gain. Jenny, what do you think? Positive or negative? The more baka mag-exercise, the more musaka imong timbang, or the more ka ma-exercise, the lesser imong timbang. Jenny? Or who would like to answer? Nakatok si Jenny.
Me, ma'am.
Sarah, okay, Sarah.
One, ma'am. It's positive, ma'am, because the more you exercise, the more you gain weight. Yan lang po,
Pwede.
ma'am.
Sakto, okay. Dako man imong muscles, no? So, the more ka ma-exercise, the more ka magka-muscle. So, the more ka matimbang. Pwede sad. Pwede sad ka maingon nga negative. Okay, the more ka ma-exercise, mag-lose ka of weight. So, pwede na gapon. So, that would depend on your reasoning now, whether it's positive or negative. Okay? Now, remember that correlation does not indicate causation. What does that mean? We can't say, kay correlation naman ni siya, dili ta kaingon nga ang pag-increase sa Y tungod sa pag-increase sa X. Okay, follow? We can only say nga when X increases, Y also increases. but we can't say that the increase in one is because of the increase in the other. Kaya di man ka-establish of cause and effect ang correlation. So that's why it says here that correlation only establishes that a relationship exists. It reflects the amount of variability that is shared between two variables and what they have in common. Now, this is a picture of a correlation. We usually use a scattergram or a scatter plot to visually represent. So, muna itong giingon, this is the figure actually that you've seen kagaina. So, if you look at IQ and GPA, this is the scatter plot. Based on the scatter plot, is it positive or negative correlation? Leaning to the right.
Positive, ma'am.
It's positive, correct. So, pag leaning to the right, it's positive. Meaning, kasi pasabot kong positive, nga kung mo-increase si IQ, mo-increase po si GPA. Or ma-decrease si IQ, ma-decrease po si GPA. What about this one? IQ and errors in an exam. Is it
Negative,
positive?
ma'am.
Negative. To the right. So, the more mong IQ, the lesser ang errors nga mo makomit sa exam. What about this one? IQ and weight. Positive, negative, or no relationship?
No relationship.
No relationship, correct. Kaya wala ganing sila naka-form of straight line. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Next. So, do not interpret the coefficient of correlation as a percent. So, if you want to know the percentage of variance, what you do is you will compute for R squared, or the coefficient of determination. So, for example, let's say R again is your coefficient of correlation. Let's say, for example, that pag-compute ninyo, later on, we will teach you how to compute. For example, pag-compute ninyo sa R, your R is 0.50. Now, what is 0.50? What does R indicate? Does it indicate a positive or a negative correlation? 0.50. Positive, negative. 0.50. What do you think?
Positive, ma'am.
Positive. Correct. Now, what about this? Positive siya kay, of course, positive man ng 0.50. What about the strength of the relationship? Balikan to na itong slide. 0.50. 0.50. Asa man siya na-belong?
Moderate.
Moderate.
Very good.
Moderate siya, ma'am.
Moderate, correct. So we say that si 0.50, that's a positive moderate relationship. Okay? Or moderately positive. Masyadong positive moderate. Positive moderate relationship. So dapat kanang duha gyud ang inyong iingon. Ang iyang direction ug ang iyang strength. So 0.50, which is the coefficient of correlation, then para makuha niyo si R squared or si coefficient of determination, i-times lang ninyo ang R sa iyang self. So 0.50 times 0.50, that's 0.25 times 100, so you get 25%. And that's your coefficient of determination. Now what does 25% mean? It means that 25% of the variance in one variable can be accounted for by variance in the other variable. And 25% minus 100, that's 75. So on 25%, mo na ang ga-account sa relationship ni variable x and variable y. The remaining 75%, that's accounted for by other variables. Okay, follow? So, i-subtract lang. So, 25%, that explains the relationship between the two variables, and the rest of the 75 is explained by other variables. So, follow? So far, ang coefficient of determination. Questions at this point? Questions? Sige, questions
No,
na.
ma'am.
None
No,
so
ma'am.
far. Sige. Now, so this one is another example. So let's say the correlation between IQ and GPA. So when you computed, the answer is 0.60. So what's the direction? 0.60. Positive, negative?
Positive.
Positive. Positive.
Positive.
Ma'am.
Positive. Tama. Ang strength niya?
Moderate.
Weak. Weak siya, ma'am. Kay 20 to 40%.
0.60 man.
Ay,
Moderate.
sa 6 moderate.
0.60. Moderate.
36 may nagtanaw.
Okay, so ito yung table ba? So, kung pamantanon mo, so what's the relationship between IQ and GPA? It's positive, a positive,
Moderate.
moderate relationship. Positive, moderate relationship. Tapos, pag imuha siyang square, 0.60 times 0.60, you have 0.36 times 100, so you have 36%. So 36, pag interpret nimo, 36% of, sorry, this is GPA. 36% of GPA is related to IQ. And then 36% minus 100, that's 64. So 36% of reading achievement is of GPA is related to IQ, while 64% is accounted for by other variables. Okay, so very easy, right? Dili lang kayo. Dili na din ta sa computation. Okay ra mo? So, ano siya ang formula sa correlation coefficient. Kung balikan ninyo, pagkuhaan ng 0.60, mo na inyong hagian na formula. But because we're now very lucky, we have programs like Excel, we don't really have to compute for this manually. So I will not require you to compute this manually, but I will require you to know how to compute it through Excel. So, dito na punta sa computation. By the way, sige, before na ko i-show sa DI, I'm going to show you a practice problem, ha? So that I can show you how to compute in Excel. So, muna siya itong practice problem. So that I can show you how to compute. So for example, this is our practice problem. So the grades of a class of 9 students on a midterm report, that's your X or your independent variable, and the final examination scores, Y, are the following. So you have two variables, X and Y. Si X kay si midterm grade. Si Y kay si final exam scores. So this is now the problem. This is how we will do correlation. First is you have to state the null and alternative hypothesis. Second, what is the correlation coefficient? So meaning compute ninyo si R. Third, explain the meaning of R. So you answer the question, what's the relationship between midterm report and final exam? And then explain the meaning of R squared or your coefficient of determination. Now, see number 1, it says there you state the null and alternative hypothesis. Noon sa man si null ug si alternative. So when we say hypothesis, it's an educated guess. It's an approximate explanation that relates to the set of facts that can be tested. So basically, this one tells us, or this one is when you think about the problem, unsa ang imuhang tagna nga iyang answer? That's your hypothesis. Do you think, since this is a correlation problem, so imuhang tagnaon, unsa kaha na by relationship si X ug si Y. So that's hypothesis, imuhang tagna. And then, ang buhaton din sa atong computation, ihang i-verify kung sakto ba imuhang tagna or dili. Okay? So there are two types of hypothesis. The null hypothesis, which is usually expressed as H sub 0 or HO. So mana si null. And then we have alternative hypothesis, or denoted as H sub 1 or H1. So duha na sila kabuok. Si HO states that there is no exact or actual relationship between the variables. So si null hypothesis, always siya mag-ingon nga there's no relationship between the variables. Whereas alternative hypothesis, because it's the opposite of your null hypothesis, kung si null, maingon siya nga no, so si alternative, maingon nga naa. Because your alternative hypothesis, or each one, suggests or advises a potential result or an outcome that an investigator or researcher may expect. So, null hypothesis, no significant relationship. H1, naay significant relationship. Now, your H1 can be directional or non-directional. When we say directional, you can say nga there is an increasing relationship. So, na direction. Positive ba siya or negative? When you say non-directional, you're just saying generically na naay relationship. So, that's HO and H1. So, since HO and H1 are contradictory, you must examine the evidence, in this case, the computation, to decide if you have enough evidence to reject the null hypothesis or not. So, ang permi na ito ginatanaw si null. Kung imong i-reject si null hypothesis, automatically you accept the H1. So, again, our decision would always be whether we will accept HO or reject HO. Okay? I know it's quite confusing pa, pero later on you will understand. Let's go to, so kini siya, no? Mo niya ato ang problem. So what we do is, we will transfer this to Excel. So ako ning diliton sa parang kita ninyo how we will do it. Okay ra? Pag-bat-in lang mo anytime if na may question ha, or gusto ninyo ipa-repeat performance. So what we will do is, we will copy. Let's copy your data. Oops. Can you see the Excel part? Or gamay kayo? Pera ang Excel.
Communication.
Gamay kayo siya. Ang padakon. Yeah. So, atong kopyahon, click a space, a cell, and then right-click. Pwede ra. I-copy mo na ito. So, let's paste it, Control-V. So, you now have your data. Now, I'm going to teach you a technique. How do we make this one into, di ba naka-Roman siya? Sometimes it's also good to have our data in columns. I'm going to insert new rows. So, what we can do, so that you will know how to transform, gusto na to, nga kini siya pahalang man, atong himon og by column. what you do is you simply highlight this one, you copy, Control C, and then you select a blank cell, right click, and then ang inyong pili kay kini siya, transpose. And what do you notice sa ato ang data? Noon sa atong data, what happened when we transposed? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Unsay nahitabo pag transfer nato?
Vertical siya, ma'am.
Vertical siya. So that's the beauty of transposing. Instead nga inyo siyang kopyaon sa tagsa para makolom, pwede ra ka to. So I'll repeat it. So you highlight your data, Control C, select a blank cell, right click, and then you select this icon, meaning arrow transposed. And notice that now your data is in column form. Okay. Now next, let's look at the problems. I will delete this one first. Oops. Ito na lang. So, nara itong first problem. State. Maklaro na ninyo ang text or gamay kayo? Klaro na?
Gamay kayo, ma'am. Gamay
Gamay
kayo.
Okay, ma'am.
Sige, lang dako na. Dali lang. Kana. Okay na?
Maklaro na siya, ma'am. I-zoom.
Right na, ma'am.
Issue. Sige, na lang. So anyways, mani siya atong data, no? So mani atong first problem. State the null and alternative hypothesis. So basically, diri nga part, you just copy this template. So template na ni siya daan. Inyo lang pulihan sa variables. So when we state the null and alternative hypothesis, always nga, kini si HO colon P is equal to 0. And then H1, P is not equal to 0. So tanan ni siya problem sa correlation. You just copy this one. Follow? And then, this is the symbol form for your hypothesis. This is the layman's term. So si HO, ang iyang layman's term, ang pasabot ani pintahay is there is no significant relationship between midterm report and final examination grade. For your H1, there is a significant relationship between midterm report and final examination grade. Follow? So, basta HO, always nga, no significant relationship. Si H1, always nga, there is a significant relationship. Follow? Clear na siya?
Okay, ma'am.
Is that
Yes,
clear?
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's go to, ako sa hide. Let's go to question number 2. So this time, what we will do is we will compute for the correlation coefficient. Now remember, one itong mahiwagang formula. Very long and complicated. But Excel does that for you in just a matter of seconds. What do you do? Ako sa ning i-delete so that you can see it. Okay. So you simply go to data and then you click data analysis. Now sometimes when you open Excel, matingal masyakira mo kaya nga nang wala pa'y data analysis. So kung makita ninyo, pag-click ninyo sa data, walay data analysis, what you do is you go to File, then you go to Options, then Add-ins, and then diridayin mo sa baba, Excel Add-ins Go, and then make sure that na-check ang analysis tool pack. And then you click OK. Let's see what will happen if I will unclick analysis toolpack ha. Ako siyang yan click. Pag open mo sa data, notice nga nawala si data analysis. So again, pag wala kay data analysis, you go to File, Options, Add-ins, diri sa Manage, you click Go, then checkmark, Analysis Toolpack, then click OK. Okay, follow so far? Now, how do we compute for R? We go to Data Analysis, then hanapin si correlation, nara. Click OK. And then for input range, you click this part and then imong i-highlight or i-select ang imuhang data. Please include the rows on top, the labels. Tapos, once you're done, you check this box, labels in first row. Then for output range, you click the first option, then click this spot here. Tapos, you select a vacant Excel cell kung asa mo gawas ang computer output. So let's say, dili na ko siya gusto mo gawas. So I will click this one, and then click here. Then you click OK. And notice nga, di-compute na niya inyong R. O diba? Magic. Kung ano mo niagi o compute manually. So then, after that, notice nga, ma'am, di man haom ang iyahang, dili man siya dili siya tsada tanawon. So you go to Format, Auto-fit, Column Width. So, ma-expand na din siya on its own. Okay? Now, what's your R here? This is your, kini ang inyong R. That's 0.56, 155.14. So, okay na ta 2 to 3 decimal places. Okay? So, this is your R. So, inyo din ang isulat diri. R is equal to 0.56 or 561. Okay? So, na may answer sa number 2. Now, the next question is, explain the meaning of correlation coefficient. Okay, now you have an R. What do you think is the relationship? 0.561. Sama na siya. Positive, negative?
Positive.
Positive, ma'am.
Positive.
Dahil
Tapos,
moderate, ma'am.
ito ang mahiwagang. Nandito. So it's
Moderate.
moderate. Correct. Pero of course, atong complete sentence, no? So, pag phrase na to, wala na ibalik. So, nanyo lang din ninyo pag phrase. So, template na po ni, inyohan na lang i-edit kung unsa gyud ang relationship. So, you say, the correlation So, template na gyapon ni siya. The correlation coefficient of 0.56 indicates that there is a moderate positive relationship between your midterm examination grade and final examination score. Do not forget nga inyo ni-interpret unsay pasabot sa moderate positive. So this means that when midterm examination grade increases, the final examination score also increase. Na lang, kasimple. Pwede na kinira inyo i-follow nga pagka-state, you just change ang correlation coefficient ug ang iyang relationship. Okay? Question so far. Na ka-follow ra? Pera? Very easy ba? Okay ra? Hello? Or questions?
Okay ma'am.
Okay ra?
Halo
Sure
na.
mo.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay ra? Sige. Next question. Ay. Next. Atong next. Yes? Ano man? Okay ra? Proceed ko or na mo yung question? Proceed? So let's proceed to R squared or your coefficient for determination. So, kaganina, we said that your R squared, you simply square your R. Pwede ra gyapon diri na ninyo sa Excel himo, no? So, the formula is you simply write equals. Then, you click this one. And then, asterisk. And then, you click this one again. Then, you press enter. So, automatically, na-compute na imuhang R squared. Now, remember that your R squared needs to be in percentage form. So, what you do is equals this one times, symbol sa times is asterisk, times 100. So, now you have the percent, 31.47. So, that's your R squared. So, pag-interpret din ana, you simply say 31.47% of the variance in final examination scores Y is explained by the linear relationship of final examination scores and midterm grade, while 68.53% is accounted for by other variables. Asa na ito nakuha si 68.53? That's 100 minus this one. And then click enter. Wait. 68.50. 5 to 7 or 53. Okay, follow? Diba? Everything is in Excel. You don't need a calculator anymore. Question so far?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes. Yes, Jenny.
Unsay gi-minus sa kuan kanang sa X? I mean,
Sa X?
nakuha ng kuan 65.
68.53? Okay. Okay, di ba 100% man?
Yes.
100%. Kunya, ang ingon, pag-compute na to sa R squared, atong R squared is 31.47. So, atong buhaton, si 100 minus 31.47.
Okay.
Enter 68.527. Round off lang na 68.53%. Okay? Okay. What else? Okay na? Let's go to this one. Ano man eh? Nalibog na yun. This one is, ang atong task, tudloan na po mo ang sound paghimo o graph. Wait lang. So this one, question number 5. Create a line graph and scatter plot to illustrate the relationship between the variables. So, kasi nangihide ang banha. So, simply, you go to insert, then, makita man ninyo diri na yung mga kinds of graphs. First, let's do a line graph. So, you select this one, kining line with markers. Sorry. So, click this one, line graph, and then line with markers. So, balin sa nato siya diri. Madali na lang siya para kita ninyo. Then, you click this one, right-click, select data. So, here, ato nang i-select ang atong data, no? So, dirita sa add. So, first is we will write for series name, nonsa na to, X. That's midterm grades, X. And then series values, here ninyo, and then you highlight this one. Only the numbers, do not include the labels anymore. Then click OK. Next, add again. Tapos this time, let's name it final examination. And then for series values, let's clear that one first. Then highlight your data. Then click OK. Then click OK. Now notice, this is now your line graph. Click ninyo siya. Click ninyo si line graph. You click the green cross or chart elements. Ay nako, wait lang. Click si chart elements. You click legend. And ayun ng data labels. Pwede po chart title. So, notice nga, pag-click ninyo ito, makita ba ninyong graph? Tanda ko on. So, muna din yung atong graph, nag-game mo. So, ang blue line, midterm grades, final examination, ang orange. Then, pwede ninyo i-click si chart title. Imuhang pulihan ng ngalan, midterm grades, and final examination. So now you have a line graph. Now notice nga niyang direction is pa-right. Sila daw ang dual line is pa-right. So that's why we can say from the graph nga it's positive. E pa-right man ang ilahang figure. Pero notice nga, dili pud sila pariha og itsura. That's why, based on our answer kaganina, moderate ra ang ilang strength sa relationship. So that's your line graph. Next, let's do a scatter plot. So same, insert. Then, mamili ka scatter plot. Ano si scatter plot? Select this one. Right-click, select data, add, pwede rin ninyo siya, so series name, still, midterm grade, and final examination scores. For your X values, so you just select your X values. For your Y values, here this one first. And then select your Y values. Then you click OK. Click OK na po. And you have here your scatter plot. Yo, makita ra siya, no? So, muna yung scatter plot. Now, kung atong i-click si green cross, atong butangan trend line. Kung atong butangan ng legend. Okay. Now, look at your scatter plot. So, tanawan ninyo, di ba itong answer ganina kay positive, moderate positive. So, positive good siya because the trend line is pa-right. And then moderate kay your dots do not perfectly show or are not perfectly lined. Hindi siya perfect na straight line. Moderate lang siya. Pag may straight na sila ang inyong dots, that means it's a strong relationship. Okay, so I think that's it for linear, for correlation. Question so far? So very easy. Questions?
Ma'am, ingana ba mong quiz, ma'am?
So your task would involve you, inato, I will give you a problem and then you give me the 5 steps. By pair lang
So,
ninyo.
so nana may kuan ma'am soft copy daan tapos amo lang din tong ikuan siya ma'am.
Oh, inyo lang din siya ni kuan sa Excel.
Okay
Okay,
ra,
Ram?
sige ra.
Is that
Okay
fine?
ra ma'am.
So, by pair man siya, pero pwede ra pod ninyo, kung gusto mo mag-solo, pwede ra pod. But you have to tell me, kinsa ang, kung mag-pair mo for example, or mag-solo mo, you need to tell me because I will give a separate problem for each. So later on, I will post the 6 problems and then ako mong assignan o isa ka problem nga inyohang nato nagyapon ninyo step 1 to step 5. Para same lang. Okay ra? And then I will also post this recording so that namoy awatanan.
Okay ma'am, okay ma'am.
Ano sa naman yung uban? Okay ra mo uban? Other
Okay lang,
student.
ma'am.
So
Ma'am.
inana yun ang kinabuhi sa statistics. This Excel lang. So, going back there, no? Budget lang. There's still, let's go back to our problem first. Notice nga, ay, di naman sa ito, no? Actually, naka-template na daan ng answers, yun nga lang yung pulihan sa particular nga variable. So, notice nga wala pa ta nag-decide, no? Kung asa sa null and alternative hypothesis ang atong dawaton. We did not yet make a decision whether there is a significant relationship or there is no significant relationship because we will determine that later on in simple linear regression. So after this, we will then move on to simple linear regression. Okay? So kini lang sa inyohang i-provide si number 1, si number 2, si number 3, si 4, ug si 5. And then later on, I think I'm going to add number 6. Ang number 6, pangitaan ko ninyo og literature nga ga-support sa kay nana man akong mag-research ta. Aside sa stat, dapat natay literature to support, no? So later on, sa number 6, mangayo ko sa inyo isa ka literature nga nag-ingon nga naay relationship si midterm exam ug si final exam. So just one, we look for one research nga parehas sa inyong result para lang makabalo mo saan ninyo pag-connect ang answer sa literature. Okay?
Excuse me ma'am.
Yes.
Pwede pa na mo mapangayo ang PowerPoint ma'am.
Yes, I will also upload it in Google Classroom.
Thank you ma'am.
I also actually prepared, share na 4. So, dili actually sa ato ang PowerPoint. So, actually, makita ninyo diri. Ako ang mong gibutangan og step by step kung how you will do it. So, para makita rin ninyo. So, siya instructions. Tokens. So, very easy.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, what if lugar, ma'am, ka ng katong manu-manu siya pag-solve, ma'am? Katong yung formula ang sundan.
Pwede ra po. Gusto mo mag-solve yun to, mano-mano?
If ever lang kami.
Minani siya, if you're going to solve for, where's that formula? Sige. Your entire screen. Let's copy the formula. Sige, dali na lang. Kini siya, oh. Can you see it? So this is your formula man. So what you do is, the first thing you do, this is shyness, this is your variable x, and this is variable y. So for each data, you compute first for x times y. So 0 times 8, 0, 2 times 10, 20, 3 times 4, 12, 6 times 6, 36, 9 times 1, 9, 10 times 3, 30. After that, after computing for x times y, you compute x squared. So x times x. So 0 times 0, 0, 2 times 2, 4, 3 times 3, 9, 6 times 6, that's 36, 9 times 9, 81, 10 times 10, 100. After x squared, you compute for y squared. So 0 times 8 times 8, 64, 10 times 10, 100, 4 times 4, 16, 6 times 6, 36, 1 times 1, 1, 3 times 3, 9. After you compute x times y, x squared, and y squared, i-total din ninyo tanan ang x, y, x times y, x squared, and y squared. So, when you total x, you have 30. Total ani nga column, 32. Total ani nga column, 107. Total ani nga column, 230. Total ani nga column, 226. Then you will simply replace or substitute in the formula. Okay? So first is you have dire, n times summation of xy. So your n, pila ka buok ang data. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's why you have 6 here. Okay, n man down. Times summation of xy. So the total of this column. Ano siyang inabi para makita. So kini x, ano ta? Summation of xy. So kini si summation of xy. So that's why nadiri ang 107. From the formula, minus summation of x times summation of y. So ang summation sa x, nara. Summation of x times summation of y. So muna nga 30 times 32. And then the bottom part or the denominator, you also just substitute. So square root sign n is 6. Kay 6 man ni kabuok, no? So 6 times summation of x squared, nara. Summation of x squared, 230, minus summation of x squared. So si 30, mamani si summation of x, imo pagit siyang e squared. And then, the other term, n, 6, summation of y squared, nara, 226, minus summation of y squared. So, si summation of y, 32 squared ni mo siya, 32 squared. And then, you compute for this one. And when you compute it, it will give you the answer of negative 0.797. So, inana lang. Easy raman po gihapon mag-manual computation. Ang problem lang sa manual computation, masipet ka diri isa, wrong tanan imuhang computation. But you can also do this one. Okay? Is that okay? Sarah? Si Sarah ba to?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay ra?
Okay, ma'am. Thank you,
Okay
ma'am.
ra po. But why compute when you can do Excel? So I won't require you to manually compute anymore because it will confuse you further. Pero kung gusto mo mag-compute, okay na po. Questions?
None so far, ma'am.
So okay na ta. So later ba? Or ugma na lang siguro na ko i-post, no? So, ugma, akong i-post ang mga problems. Siya man inyong ganahan by pair or individual? What do you want? Siya inyong ganahan? Individual na lang? Sige, ay, kamo lang ang bahala kung mag-by pair mo or individual. Basta, pag-post na ko sa Google Classroom, mag-comment, ay sa kuan na lang, no? Sa Facebook group, maghimo lang kog thread dito din. Dito mo mag-comment kung individual ba mo or kinsa inyong pair so that I can assign the problem. Okay? So, I will post it tomorrow. When can you possibly submit it? Okay ra ma-submit by 26? March 26. Okay ra? Hello? Or
Kung
kaya
saan ba din, ma'am?
ha?
Okay lang yan. Okay lang.
Friday. Next Friday.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, Sarah.
Pila siya ka-items, ma'am?
Isa ra ka problem yung resolve. Isa ra.
Sige, ma'am.
So, Friday na lang, ha? Para lang makatesting mo. So, Friday, March 26. Tapos pagka March 26, okay ra mag-asynchronous, magkuanta na, mag-Google Meet na sabta. Okay, mag-simple
ma'am.
ta.
Ma'am.
Okay ra? Sige.
Yes, ma'am.
So, unsa man inyong ganahan sa Friday sa 26? Morning or afternoon?
Pwede 11 to 12, ma'am.
Ha?
Pwede alas 8 to alas 20.
Sige, pwede ra, alas 11. 11 to 12. Pero po,
Yes, ma'am.
sige. Okay. So, any more? Wala na? Yung nakakaya kayo ninyo ng correlation. Ay, very easy. Yeah. But if you have questions, you just feel free to message me. Okay. So, mag-picture na ta. Okay, nahuman na itong klase. Turn on. Can you turn on your, camera? Pang documentation. So, maka-turn on lang. Yeah. May background si Chris Arellano. Mga tanong yun. Sana all plants.
Tagawas mo.
Sige, okay na. Di na lang mo magawa ng uban. Masyari mo. Sige. Walang screenshot dito. Okay, salamat. See you on Friday. Next Friday. I will just post in Google Classroom. Bye.
Bye,
Bye,
ma'am.
Bye, ma'am.
Hello, mga classmates.
Ako.